You can giggle, but it's a fact. You have drones.
It's a non sequitur.
You have.
It's not the topic of the issue.
I'll
tell you. Hang on.
No. Let me finish. Because this is called grifting. And what I'm also and that's fine. He's not in the White House. But what I am saying, and whataboutism is fine if that's going to be your argument. But what I'm also saying is meme coins. I'm saying Bitcoin. I'm saying cryptocurrency. Yeah. I'm saying the businesses that the president's sons have joined the boards, that they've monetized. And so I think that the American public is very clear-eyed about the fact that Donald Trump and Eric Trump are just as bad, if you want to say so, as
Bakari Sellers went head-to-head with Noah Rothman on CNN's Table for Five, and it got heated fast. The conversation covered Hunter Biden, Graham Plattner, political accountability, and the double standard that Noah Rothman kept trying to apply to Democrats while completely ignoring what's happening inside the Trump family right now. And Bakari Sellers made the point that needed to be made if we're going to talk about grifting and the children of presidents, monetizing political access. Let's have that conversation honestly and apply the same standard to everyone in the room. Let's watch this and I'll break it all down on the other side.
So Hunter Biden is back, and I'm not sure who asked for this. Does anyone know?
I did not ask for this. Yeah. And I think that the vast majority, I think, in the Democratic Party also are kind of done with talking about the Biden family. President Biden did wonderful things, and I'm not sure why he's going out and talking about it. One thing about his comments on Graham Plattner, I do find interesting that there has generally been a divide in response when it comes to response from men and then response from women. One thing I think I would caution the Democratic Party more broadly about it is that women make up a majority of the electorate, especially independent voters. And if people are, and I think that obviously the voters of Maine are going to vote when it comes to Graham Plattner, and it seems like the allegations don't bother them. But for national Democrats to really go out on a limb right now, I don't think it is a smart idea, for the reason that we need them to win in the midterm elections. We need women to win in 2028. And if we start alienating women, that is terrible for the Democratic Party. We cannot be the Republican Party. And so this conversation, with national Democrats, I find interesting because of that gender divide.
I mean, Reshma, do you think it's alienating women?
I mean,
the way the Democrats are handling it?
I didn't like the smirk on their faces, right? When they actually made that comment about, like, he hasn't done this, he hasn't done that, but he has real allegations, from women, accusing him of abuse, and we should have to take that seriously. Look, I think on the Hunter Biden thing, like, he's not a politician. He's an entertainer. And I don't know about you, but I almost rather take like a shit poster on X rather than a grifter to be the next president's son. And I think, but the problem is like, we got to be careful about this, right? We kind of are falling in love with these men who are just simply entertaining us. And we elected one. And now everyone thinks that that's basically the playbook. Didn't work in LA, right? I think the reality is, and you see this with Miriam Mamdani's win, he was incredible as a social media personality, but he also had substance. He gave us hope. He gave us inspiration. That's what that's what voters are looking for. And so I think just be careful on this playbook as it being a signal of, like, that's what you have to do to actually get elected.
That is such an important point, because to me, the Hunter Biden thing, like, first of all, I don't think most people care. I'm not one way or another. Nobody really is like begging to hear from Hunter Biden. But the quickness with which some Democrats are like, oh, he's trashing Trump online. Let's elevate that. I don't know. I mean, why? Like, that just seems substance free.
You had two people that were together for a particular cause, right? A singular cause. And I think that a lot of times people assume that Gavin Newsom ascended to the level of popularity he did because he had the same type of arrogance, egomania, and Twitter presence that Donald Trump did. And when you match him with Hunter Biden, you kind of get this really weird, like, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Like, and for some Democrats, that's what they're looking for. They're looking for accountability. They're looking for boisterism. They're looking for machismo, something that Donald Trump represented. I think, for me, Hunter Biden can do whatever he would like to do. He's not in the arena. I could care less. I do hear your points, though, because when I was preparing for the show this morning, one of the things that we talked about was Hunter Biden, and I was really prepared to say I don't care. I give 2 cents. But I understand your point about the way that it makes women feel when they have this type of colloquial conversation. So I take that and I hear you on that, and I'll have to self-evolve on that. The other point is that Donald Trump Jr. actually is in the White House right now. He is the president's son. 1789 Capitol, he joined the board. They got a $620 million contract with the Pentagon. You can giggle, but it's a fact. You have drones.
It's a non sequitur.
You have.
It's not the topic at issue.
No.
I'll tell you. Hang on.
No. Let me finish. Because this is called grifting. And what I'm also
So
and that's fine. He's not in the White House. But what I am saying, and whataboutism is fine if that's going to be your argument. But what I'm also saying is meme coins. I'm saying Bitcoin. I'm saying cryptocurrency. Yeah. I'm saying the businesses that the president's sons have joined the boards, that they've monetized. And so I think that the American public is very clear-eyed about the fact that Donald Trump and Eric Trump are just as bad, if you want to say so, as Hunter Biden.
Okay, back to the subject at hand, Hunter Biden and Graham Plattner. What I heard there was very representative of the progressive movement. Yeah, he's got some character flaws. Maybe I didn't hear that he said black people don't tip. Maybe I didn't hear that he said that women should, accept the fact that they are inviting rape. Maybe he didn't hear any of that. But his progressive sensibilities, his policy preferences, they suffice for character. I hear that all the time. And I hear it from progressives looking for a rationalization to vote for Graham Plattner. And if the shoe was on the other foot, if it was a Republican, it wouldn't be his ideology.
Well, there is.
Allow
me to make it. And this is exactly, you just made my point for me.
I know, and I'm not defending Graham Plattner.
Rapacious, cold-hearted, conservative ideology that is part of that philosophy.
Did you vote for Donald Trump?
No.
Not any of the 3 times?
Never. And you know why? Because character matters.
Yeah. So
and
let's be clear, we don't want either one of them.
You
know what I mean? Like, to be on the record.
So the point being that progressives never confront their own ideological prescriptions that may contribute to this as well. The political violence that attends around progressivism, the paternalism towards minorities that attends around progressivism.
Let me just play
both
this.
Neither one of those comments are actually rooted in truth. But go ahead.
The paternalism is self-evident. You were here for the DEI events, all the debate around it, which was that minorities cannot navigate life without a liberal Sherpa holding their hand.
That's not what DEI is about.
Okay.
That was
let me play this because I think it speaks to some extent to your point, but I think what you're going to hear here is actually maybe an evolution among some people on the left. Listen.
The kind of old rules, unfortunately, don't exist anymore. I think a lot of us, I miss decorum. I miss actual researched and corroborated journalism being what gets on the air. But at the end of the day, I think if you don't go into some of these spaces, you leave a vacuum for the worst misinformation, for the worst racism, for the worst sexism to grow. And while I do believe my forever First Lady, Michelle Obama, should stay high, like when they go low, she should stay high. I don't want that woman in the muck, but I was raised by a mother who was raised in the Bronx. Like, you want to go low, I'll meet you in the gutter. We kept it classy for too long, and at this point, I'm like, come at me, and I'm going to punch you in the mouth.
Let me chime in here because I hear everybody's points. I need to disabuse you of a couple of notions. First is this paternalism that you talked about with DEI and everything else, and I think that is a decently privileged statement to make for this reason. One of the things that people don't realize is that the cost of change in this country is extremely high for minorities and people of color. Every ounce of change we've ever had in this country has been because of black blood that flowed through the streets. So you don't have the 64-65 Voting Rights Act. This isn't paternalism. This is without the Edmund Pettus Bridge, right? And that was the first time white people actually were able to see the brutality black people faced in the streets of Mississippi. You don't have the Fair Housing Act of 1968 without the assassination of King. You don't have the Confederate flag come down without the killing of 9 people in a church. You don't have a conversation about criminal justice reform without George Floyd. And so I give you those historical markers because when you're able to articulate or come on TV and say that there is some paternalism that goes along with the progressivism and the way they treat minorities, that's simply not the case. One of the things I believe my goal in life is to drive down that cost. And so when we talk about people like Graham Plattner, when we talk about people who are imperfect with all of their markers, one of the things that minorities in this country in particular are dealing with are grasping with this unenviable task of choosing this kind of lesser of two evils because we cannot afford the ability to be persecuted, oppressed, or put upon any longer. And so I hear the balance, but I want you to understand there's a certain level of empathy that has to go into this decision about the choices that we make and the alternatives that we have. Because if Graham Plattner was not the nominee, I would cheer loudly
Yeah.
That is my goal, but there is a certain privilege to go.
But I think there's
I'm sorry, you're just looking directly at me. Empathy is fine, but empathy stripped of discretion is not fine. Empathy stripped of discretion and judging individuals as individuals rather than avatars of a political movement, and then subordinating to standards you would apply to anybody else merely because they're part of your political movement.
Let's start with the Hunter Biden conversation, because the panel actually got this right from the jump. Nobody asked for Hunter Biden to be out there making statements. Most Democrats are genuinely done with that entire chapter and want to move forward. The concern raised about elevating him specifically because he's entertaining online is a legitimate one. Viral social media presence is not a political strategy. We already watched that lesson play out in Los Angeles, where Spencer Pratt generated enormous online momentum and still lost to candidates with actual policy substance and community roots. Entertainment value gets clicks, but it does not get votes from people who are worried about their electricity bill. But here's where Noah Rothman's entire argument fell apart, and Bakari Sellers saw it coming a mile away. Rothman kept trying to frame this as a story about progressive hypocrisy, Democrats defending Graham Plattner's character flaws while demanding Republicans answer for theirs. And then Bakari Sellers just named the actual reality that exists right now in the White House. Donald Trump Jr. is on the board of 1,789 Capital, a fund that received a $620 million Pentagon contract. Eric Trump is monetizing political access through cryptocurrency ventures. The Trump family is running memecoins, Bitcoin promotions, and business deals in industries the president directly regulates. This is not a whataboutism, the literal ongoing situation happening in real time with the people currently in power. Noah Rothman's response was to call that a non sequitur and laugh it off. But here's the thing. If Hunter Biden's business dealings were relevant enough to warrant years of congressional hearings, FBI investigations, and wall-to-wall media coverage, then the president's sons sitting on boards, receiving hundreds of millions in government contracts, while their father controls federal spending, is not only relevant, it is significantly more relevant. The standard has to apply in both directions, or it is not a standard at all. And then Bakari made the point that should really be the center of this entire conversation about Graham Plattner and who minorities choose to vote for. He said it clearly, and it deserves to be heard fully. Every major piece of progress in American history came at an enormous cost, paid disproportionately by Black Americans and other minorities. You don't get the Voting Rights Act without Bloody Sunday at the Edmund Pettus Bridge. You don't get the Fair Housing Act without the assassination of Dr. King. You don't get a national conversation about criminal justice reform without George Floyd. This is not paternalism. This is documented history. And when Noah Rothman sits on a panel and suggests that Democrats are being paternalistic toward minorities in how they discuss political choices, he is ignoring the lived reality of what it actually costs communities of color when the wrong policies win. And that connects directly to why the Graham Plattner question looks different to different communities. When you are facing policies that strip your health care, weaponize immigration enforcement against your family, gut programs your community depends on, and appoint people to the courts who roll back protections that took generations of blood and sacrifice to achieve, the calculation about which candidate to support is not a luxury choice between equally acceptable options. It is a survival calculation, and the person who has never had to make that calculation has no standing to tell the people who do how to feel about it. Now, on the broader point about character and accountability, yes, it matters. And yes, consistency matters. Nobody on that panel was saying character is irrelevant. What they were saying is that you cannot demand character-based accountability from Democrats while excusing a president with 34 felony convictions, documented sexual abuse findings, and an entire family running business deals through the White House. If character is the standard, apply it everywhere. The moment you only apply it in one direction, it stops being a principle and becomes a political weapon. The panel also made an important point about where Democrats need to put their energy heading into the midterms. Not on Hunter Biden, not on online entertainment, on policy, on substance. on the real economic anxiety that voters are expressing every single time pollsters ask them what they care about most. Gas prices, grocery costs, healthcare, housing. Those are the issues that move independent voters, and they are the issues where this administration has the weakest record. Drop your thoughts in the comments below, hit the thumbs up, subscribe, and turn on the bell notification. I'll see you in the next one.